Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
I think there's a perception out there that Sweden has not put in place control measures and has just allowed the disease to spread. Nothing could be further from the truth. Sweden has put in place a very strong public health policy around physical distancing, around caring and protecting for people in long-term facilities and many other things. What it has done differently is it has very much relied on the ability and willingness of citizens to implement physical distancing and to self-regulate. They've implemented public policy through that partnership with the population.
That's the big part, the population. The population. Sweden seems to be a little bit more adult in some ways. They trust their government in a lot of ways, even when the government's not the government they vote for. So here, when the Republicans are in power, the Democrats don't trust them. When the Democrats are in power, the Republicans don't trust them. In Sweden, whoever's in power, they generally think to themselves, they have a good, confident belief that that person, no matter who he or she is, gets the job done, and they trust that they're doing the best they can for Sweden. Why does it matter? Everybody's on Sweden. Sweden's horrible. Sweden's bad. Look at their numbers. Sweden's taking a much different approach. The numbers are higher than their neighbors? Absolutely. But the way that they've decided to go at this is they took a long-term approach. And the long-term approach looks like this. We can hide from it or we can live with it. It's not going anywhere. There is no vaccine. There may not be a vaccine. So let's figure out how we live with it so we can defeat it. They're talking about this thing lasting who knows how long, potentially 2 years. We can't live like this for 2 years. We can't. At some point in time, what I think might have to happen, whether we want to deal with it or not, is we might have to say, we're going to have to learn to live with this. We're going to have to make sure that people who are compromised with their immune systems hide, if you will, shelter in place, and that everybody else is going to have to learn to live with this. We adapt. Human beings adapt. That's the reality of it. We can figure it out. We can adapt to this. It's what do we want to adapt to? That's a good question. What are you willing to do to adapt? We can't spend the next 6 months hoping and praying that somebody comes up with a vaccine. There's 102 companies currently working 24/7, 365 on a vaccine for this. My assumption, and it may be wrong, is all 102 can't be wrong. Somebody's got to get it right, you would think. But it doesn't guarantee 100% immunity. So at some point in time, we may have to accept the fact that we're going to have to live with this. May not like that answer, but that might be the only answer. Now, we've done enough to flatten a bit of the curve, to stock up where we think we need to stock up, maybe even get to the point where we're going to have a few therapeutics that will help the critically ill recover faster, when the majority of us that are exposed to it and or get this will not get anywhere close to being hospitalized. We may be uncomfortable, and potentially 70, 80% of us may never know we really had it. But we've got to figure this out. I think the states are doing the best they possibly can, taking in some of the information, and the information flies in from 1,000 different places. My God. The information, I mean, you can look at California. Their information seems to be way different than Arizona. Utah's information is different. Wyoming, Montana, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, New York. Everybody's getting data and information flying in. Everybody's got their own models. They're going to the colleges and getting models. But at the end of the day, we may be forced to make a decision that looks similar to Sweden, which is we can adapt, we can learn to live with it, and through living with it, we can learn how to build immunity and eventually, hopefully, phase this thing out. You'd like to think we don't have to get there. You'd like to think that they could come up with a vaccine. But if you're talking about anywhere between the next 16 to 24 months, we'd have to live like this, I don't see how we have anything left at the end. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. What do you say? I would find it hard to believe that at the end of the day, if we continue like this for not only the foreseeable future, but for a long term, even into, let's say, the first quarter of 2021, what's left? For a lot of people, I don't know what would be left. Financial ruin for plenty, homelessness for a lot, poverty for so many, and probably a 5 or 10 year rebuild on the economy. That's a hard thing to swallow. It is. And I think if you ask a person, how much longer can you do this? You're going to get varied answers, but one thing you're not going to get from the majority of people is until they get a vaccine, until it goes away. Everybody has a breaking point. Everybody has a breaking point. Some people are handling it different. Yesterday, Michigan, they're upset. States handle things differently. Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan has come down hard on Michiganders. I guess that's what you call them. And they're really, some of the stuff that they're not allowed to do compared to other states who have a little bit more freedom. Yeah, they were upset. They showed up. They were angry. Is some of it real? Yeah, absolutely. Some of it is. Some of it is petulance, but you're also treating them like children. I mean, you're telling people that you can't buy, gardening equipment and like seeds if you want to garden in your own backyard. It's ridiculous. Then you've got the battle going on in California right now where Newsom's taking on Orange County, California, because, my God, it got really warm over the weekend. And the next thing you know, they're battling over the beaches.
The schism over how to deal with COVID is spilling into the courts. California's Governor Newsom says Orange County's open the beaches order was premature, but one city is fighting him with a lawsuit. A judge will decide the clash between public health and personal freedom.
Yeah. Newsom's pushing back. It's nuts. First of all, I saw the people on the beach. Let's be real. You go to the beach, you usually go there with your family. Now, I lived in Southern California for a very long time, most of my life. I rarely went to the beach. When I was a kid, it's funny because when I was a kid, I did surf. I surfed a lot, but I didn't go to the beach. I would go down, I would get in the water, I'd surf, and then I'd leave. But when you do go to the beach, you're there with your family. You don't sit on top of each other. People are social distancing. It's not that hard. I mean, if you allow them to go to Target and to Walmart, what's the deal with letting them go to the beach? Especially when people need to be outside. They need to be doing something because they're going stir crazy. And if you don't start giving people some freedoms, what you'll find back is they push back harder and harder and harder. And their breaking point gets sooner, and sooner. That's what they've got going on. New York, it's chaos. It's crazy. They were hit the hardest and still are fighting the biggest battle. For the first time, I think, ever, the subways are not running 24/7. Some of these places have kind of done it to themselves. Some of it just happens to be where they are. We've gotten to the point now where if your loved one is dying, for whatever reason, your loved one may be nowhere near COVID-19 as far as their death. They were hit by a car. They're in the hospital. Can't see them. They die. Funeral. Can't go. People are getting sick and tired of it. I understand that. People are taking in all the data. Our experts, our leaders, they're trying to do the best they possibly can. They're erring on the side of caution. I understand that. I wouldn't want to be in that position. I don't know too many people that would. But screw the politics. You're hoping you're doing the right thing, but you must remember we have a constitution. People are used to their freedoms. And the harder you clamp down on them, the more they feel like you're taking away things. And the more you treat them like children, they're going to act like children. This isn't going away anytime soon. And I think the more that we're in the position where we're locked down longer and longer as far as sheltering in place, the more that you're going to see people start to get anxious, people start to push back, people start to push the boundaries of what they are or aren't supposed to do. So I'm telling everybody out there, if you are running a city, running a state, transparency is the most important thing. The more transparent you are, the more that you allow them to see into what's going on in your decision-making skills, that you've decided, hey, these are my skills in decision-making. I am picking from this, and this. I'm doing it all. The more that you are transparent, the better it will be. Because when people start to feel that this is more than just what you decide it is and that there's a bigger game going on, the more people are going to be angry. I don't think any of us wants that. And what you saw yesterday in the scenes in Michigan, you're going to start to see play out in many other places. And if this goes on another month or two with no end in sight, not only are governors going to make a decision, but so are the people. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from all of you. My Pillow, Mike Lindell, interesting character. He's got his book out now. I'll tell you how you can get it a little bit later. But it's just, this guy had all kinds of issues. Drug problems. I mean, just issue after issue. He was at the bottom and then rose to the top. And his company, My Pillow, has decided now for at least a while they're going to produce PPEs like masks and everything for hospitals. So the production line's doing that, but they want to get rid of everything in the warehouse right this second so they can use that space. So he's offering a buy one, get one free on everything. The Supima My Pillows, the Giza towels and sheets, you name it, the Roll and Go Anywhere pillows, the duvet covers, you name it. Buy one, get one free. You get a 60-day money-back guarantee. You get a 10-year warranty. They're all machine washable and everything's made in the United States. Now, when you go to the radio listener special page, you type in code Benson. On the way out, when you're checking out, if you order Mike's book, your entire My Pillow order ships for free, and he's going to throw in a $25 gift card towards your next purchase. Go to MyPillow.com, use the promo code Benson, MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
No need to fear. We promise we won't give you a noogie and make you cry Russia, Russia, Russia.
Fui to fearless leader.
Fui.
Fui, and double fui.
Boy, it's your language. This is a family show, remember?
Fui to family too.
Nostrovia. This is Chad Benson.
We've talked about funerals before as well. That's why I'm so angry. We have given plenty of warnings. What is so frustrating to me is after all those messages were so clear that so many people would still choose to gather. I understand that they lost someone very dear and important to them, but this is still a pandemic. People's lives are put in danger when people gather. So what's shocking to me is that after all the warnings, something of this size would happen. And that's where I'm making very clear, unapologetically, that the next gathering will be met by summonses and arrests, period. No more warnings.
Oh, de Blasio, pissed. It was a large Hasidic Jewish funeral. He was very upset about the people meeting and gathering. Again, listen to him.
I'm not talking again about a few friends hang out in the corner. I'm saying if you have a large gathering, hundreds of people, thousands of people, they're not even going to have a discussion. It's just we're going immediately to summons, and if we have to use arrest, we'll use arrest.
Well, if 1,000 people show up somewhere, what if they just randomly show up? We're going to arrest everybody? That's why people push back. So I do my show here, and then I have another show I do, and my on-air partner, Gatos, who I love, is my super best friend. His mother died over the weekend. She had a lot of problems. Great lady. She got COVID-19 and she ended up passing away. So she's in New Jersey. So now, Phil, I want you guys to listen. This story is absolutely incredible. It's just mind-boggling. The funeral was 2 days ago. So all that could go was Gatos' father and his sister. So you're only allowed 3 people. But one of the people is the hearse driver. So that's all that's allowed to be there. The hearse driver, funeral guy, drives the hearse about a mile from the place. He goes into a parking lot. He gets out of the hearse. This is what's crazy. The son-in-law, my on-air partner's brother-in-law, gets in the hearse, puts on the hat, and drives the hearse to the cemetery. And they're only allowed to be there for a certain amount of time. And then he drives back, switches places with the guy. That's the stuff that's going on. It's nuts. It really is. Can't be there for people. You can't be there for people that are sick. You're last talking to somebody, no matter what they have, is via Skype or Facebook Messenger, or if you even have a chance to talk to them. It's sad. It really, really is. You can arrest people for going to a funeral. It's not going to play out well. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Biden speaks about that thing which he didn't want to speak about. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
So, there is going to be an election this year. It will be Trump versus, most likely, Biden. But you never know. You never know. Take you back a few summers ago. Right? A little bit long ago. It's a guy named Brett Kavanaugh and Christine Blasey Ford. Remember her? Hi. So there's an allegation against him. Happened some 40 years earlier by a woman who really couldn't recall exactly what took place at the house that it took place at. It was, at best, a throw against the wall. I felt bad for her because I felt like the Democrats used her, and the minute they were done with her, they threw her away. And I don't want to discount anything that happened, but it was there's no court in the land that would have convicted him on any of those. But at the time, it was, you got to believe all women. And I said, no, you have to hear all women. You don't believe everything. You have to hear it. You don't say, I believe you, before you've even heard it. Joe Biden. For the last several weeks, this has been bubbling. Coronavirus has stolen everything's thunder. Let's be real. Everything's thunder has been stolen by said coronavirus. That's 24/7 nonstop. But politics is still going on. It's not going anywhere. There will be an election in November. And Joe Biden, who's, let's be real, bit handsy. We already know that. Bit odd, hair sniffer. We already know that. Has heard the rumblings of this, and the media's largely ignored it. And when they have talked to him, it's been, basically, you're the best, you're the greatest. Can you defeat this evil monster in the White House? I don't know if the allegations are true. Right? I don't know. Everybody, Trump's chiming in about what's going on.
Joe Biden, your campaign and surrogates going after him pretty hard with regard to these allegations from Tara Reid. And what do you say to Joe Biden?
I don't know anything about it. I don't know exactly. I think he should respond. It could be false accusations. I know all about false accusations. I've been falsely charged numerous times. And there is such a thing.
Yeah, could be. I don't know if what she's saying is true because we haven't heard the story. The media has largely ignored the story, which is very hypocritical of them based on what took place with Kavanaugh.
If you look at Brett Kavanaugh, this is an outstanding man. He was falsely charged. What happened with him was an absolute disgrace to our country. And I guess 3 of the 4 women have now admitted that. And of the 4th, give me a break. But I don't know. I can't speak for Biden. I can only say that I think he should respond. I think he should answer them.
The other day, he was at a women's forum. Nobody asked the question. So you have a woman, Tara Reid, who in 1993 accused him of doing something. She told her brother. She told her next door neighbor. There has been more than a few people that said, yeah, she told me exactly what happened and who it was. So today, finally, because I think enough people said you've got to address this because the Huffington Post is starting to ask questions, pretty left-leaning. Chris Hayes the other night started to ask some questions. Don Lemon has asked some questions as well, because that's what you're supposed to do in this kind of situation. I'm not saying he did anything, because I don't know. I wasn't there. She could be lying. She could be telling the truth.
Please, to our viewers, please excuse the graphic nature of this, but I want to make sure that there is no question as to what we're talking about. She says in 1993, Mr. Vice President, that you pinned her against the wall and reached under her clothing and penetrated her with your fingers. Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reid?
No, it is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
Okay, never happened. Never, ever happened. That's what he's saying, unequivocally. We live in a world where innocent until proven guilty. I don't know if it happened or not. I don't. There are going to be other women that pop up. It's a possibility. He wasn't finished.
Women are to be believed, given the benefit of the doubt. If they come forward and say something that they said happened to them, they should start off with the presumption they're telling the truth. Then you have to look at the circumstances and the facts. And the facts in this case do not exist. They never happened. And there's so many inconsistencies in what has been said in this case. So you just look at the facts. And I assure you, it did not happen. Period.
It did not happen. Period. So, allegedly, she was a staffer, went over to deliver like a duffel bag or something like that. They were alone. You get what happens. So, I find it to be, it's funny because all of these women who want to be his vice presidential candidates, who hammered Kavanaugh over and over, now have to come out and say, "Oh, it's not him. It's not the person I know. You know what? I don't buy this." It's the look. There's hypocrisy. Let's be honest. There is. I don't know if it happened. She could totally be lying. Somebody said, do you think she's lying? I said, I don't know. I have no idea if she's lying. I have no idea what took place. I said, could something have happened? Absolutely. 110% something could have happened. At the same time, could she be lying? Oh, for sure. But isn't it funny the way that we have this? There is a certain amount of hypocrisy here that is going on. And I think if you go as far as we did with Kavanaugh, let's not forget Kavanaugh.
But why is it different now? Do you regret what you said during the Kavanaugh hearings?
What I said during the Kavanaugh hearings was that she had a right to be heard. And the fact that she came forward, the presumption would be she's telling the truth unless it's proved she wasn't telling the truth. Or not proved, unless it's clear from the facts surrounding it, it's not the truth.
This woman, who's heard her? I'm curious. Who's out there hearing her? I don't. Minus Fox and a few right-wing outlets, nobody's really covering it. A few have asked questions about it. Her story seems a little bit more plausible. Doesn't mean she's telling the truth. But there's some questions, right? I mean, it's not wrong to ask questions.
I have complete respect for the whole Me Too movement. I have 4 daughters and 1 son, and there's a lot of excitement around the idea that women will be heard and be listened to. There is also due process. The fact that Joe Biden is Joe Biden, his former employees who ran his offices and the rest, that there was never any record and that nobody ever came forward or nobody came forward to say something about it apart from the principal involved.
Well, who else was going to say something? If I'm the only one in the room with somebody and somebody does something to me, who else is going to come forward outside of me to say something? Hey, did you see through the wall what happened? No. No, I didn't. Oh, you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. There's more of this. There is. Where and when that's going to come out is anybody's guess. But it's not going away, and it's now out there. Here's a question. What if another person pops up? What do they do then? What do they do then? Because Bernie ain't the answer. But there's somebody always lurking out there, waiting. And I've said from the start of this process, she wants to be president. She does not want to go through the primary process. She wants to be president, and she wants them, if something was to happen, to ask her to save the party. Could it happen? What do you mean, could it happen? If you'd have told me 8 weeks ago that our economy would have shed 30 million jobs, we were going to be locked up for who knows how long, sheltering in place, not being able to high-five each other or watch sporting events, I think everybody said you're crazy. Anything is possible. Anything. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You could text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. I wonder if he's going to release the records. That's the other thing people are asking about Biden.
Joe Biden's statement denying allegations from Tara Reid is the first issued under his own name. Reid told ABC News that at the time in 1993, she complained to the Senate Personnel Office Biden had made her feel uncomfortable, but she did not mention an assault, and she has no record of the complaint. Biden called for any relevant records in the National Archive to be released.
Not just on this. People are asking, well, why don't you release all the records? Well, he's like, stuff can be misinterpreted. Could be. Absolutely right. But for years, people were paid out with taxpayer money and allowed to go on their merry way, continuing to be senators and congressmen and women, and records were essentially, poof, magically gone. Just say it. If we're going to release all the records, then release all the records. I got zero problem with that. Interpretation is real. We can all interpret certain things, and I'm not saying allegations are proof of guilt. Sometimes it's just easier to pay somebody to go away. I think we all know that. But still, there's questions to be asked. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program. CarShield, 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free, and your car gets to go to the shop that you choose, and they get them paid directly. Mm-hmm. You pay a small deductible. That's pretty awesome. Now, what CarShield does, they have plans, all kinds of plans. Start as low as $99 a month. You call them up and you tell them, hey, my car's a little older. It's like 2010, and it's got 100,000 miles on it, and I worry about my transmission or whatever. They've got a plan for that. Maybe your car's a little newer, but it has electronics. You're worried about that and what that would cost. They've got a plan for that. You name it, they've got a plan for it. And again, 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop, and the shop is the shop that you choose. You pay a small deductible. Call them today. Talk to them. 800-CAR-6000. Mention code Benson. Or visit carshield.com and use code Benson. Saves you 10%. 800-CAR-6000, code Benson. Carshield.com, code Benson. Saves you 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
Take a fake news break. Check out the really important news of the day at our website, ChadBensonShow.com. Once there, click on Chad's free podcast and get real. The Chad Benson Show, where truth and the American way live. Print free.
I need some idea of the threat we face. When Christopher Nolan's Tenet premieres in July, expected right now to be the first major motion picture to hit theaters when they reopen, more than half of Americans say they'd sit in the dark with strangers to watch it, as long as some precautions are in place. A new poll from The Hollywood Reporter and Morning Consult finds that if the White House guidelines are met for opening businesses and theaters are sanitized and offer staggered seating, around 53% of those polled are likely to buy a movie ticket in the first month. And 44% say when they do go, they'll probably wear masks.
Really? I don't, it's not going to be me. I like going to movies. I usually go by myself. We'll go with Jack, but when we go, we sit next to each other, and I always like to sit on the aisle anyways. Even if there's nobody in the theater, I might sit on the aisle. I'm just an odd bird like that. I can't wear a mask. I've tried. I put one on because we were taking pictures and we were trying to, do a thing. Hey, everybody, I can't. I know. You're a jerk, Chad. You should be. I can't wear certain masks. I think there's some other stuff that's a lot more comfortable out there that's that. But I don't want to live in a world where I have to wear a mask. I think most of us don't want that. And I don't foresee myself sitting in a place for 2 hours or so watching a movie, breathing into a mask. That just seems like, no, I'll pass. It's not just whether or not we can eventually go out and do things. What are the ramifications of doing the things as far as the restrictions or extra steps you have to go to? Going to a restaurant where my server is wearing giant gloves and a mask is not appetizing, even if I like the food. Going to a movie where I have to wear a mask the whole time, I just pass. I'll wait for it to come out. And streaming is, hey, people are taking notice.
Releasing movies in theaters remains at the core of Universal's business model, NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell said Thursday during parent company Comcast's quarterly earning call. But he also said that going forward, as theaters reopen, he expects streaming video on demand to be a part of theatrical releases in some way. He says it won't be a replacement, but a, quote, complementary element, since people are used to watching stuff at home. Earlier this week, theater chain AMC said it won't run Universal movies going forward because of the company's plans to introduce a streaming component to theatrical releases.
Yeah, and they're going to do that. For the last several years, especially as streaming has taken off, Hollywood has debated including some of the bigger people in Hollywood who made their living and their fame, Steven Spielberg's and whatnot, on giving people the opportunity to watch movies at home. And that's been talked about. For me, though, I'm never not going to go to the movies as long as I don't have to wear a mask. If I can go see the movie I want to see as it comes out, even if it's if it's at home. Like this year, they were supposed to have the release of the next Halloween movie. There's no doubt that Thursday night, I would be in line and will be, God willing, that everything goes okay and we get back to some regular way of living, which I think is very much a possibility. I will be there, popcorn in hand, enjoying myself. Some movies I can wait for that. Other movies, I love the experience. It's not just whether or not you can watch it at home or not. Sometimes it's about the experience. It's about going through the whole thing. The getting your popcorn, the getting your drink, the candy, sitting down, the big theater, the chairs, the whole 9 yards, and just enjoying the experience. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Happy Friday. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
But it will all depend on the virus. I think that if the virus is mostly gone, then everybody will get back to their normal lives and the baseball stadiums will be filled with fans again and so on. And if the virus is still lingering or even staying at about the level we see right now, then activity will stay lower.
I don't know when it's going to leave. Question I get asked every single day. How long do you think it's going to go on? First, different states will have different rules, and they'll climb out of it at their own pace. Some states may stay in a little bit longer, but climb out quicker just because of the infrastructure and where they are. Other states may get out earlier, but still have a steeper hill to climb. At the end of the day, nobody knows how long this is going to be here. We don't know. It's a novel virus. We do not have a 100% sure way to battle it as far as a therapeutic, which changes the game tremendously. I think if there's a therapeutic, like if you have the flu, there's Z-Pack. Doesn't always work, but it's pretty good. Helps you recover faster. There's a new drug, well, not a new drug, an older drug they're trying that seems to be working, that they're now making it part of the care. But the people that are getting that are getting it who are at the latter stages, who are struggling and with the potential of getting worse and maybe being on a ventilator. They're not giving that early on. Like if you get the flu today, you go to your doctor's like, you get the flu, let me give you a Z-Pack. With this Gilead drug, remdesivir or whatever it is there, that's not happening. That they're using it on patients who are already in the throes of a battle with this thing. Nobody knows how long it's going to last. Depends on the virus. That's it. What we do know is it is ugly.
30 million people have filed for unemployment insurance. The unemployment rate is probably up around 19%. And those numbers are as startling as anything we've seen since the Great Depression.
That is Kevin Hassett, American economist, but also the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. And yes, it's about 19%. Depending on what happens in the next several weeks, there is a potential to see this thing climb well into the 20s. And that is crazy. Remember, not everybody who has filed for unemployment. Some, with certain contractors and they're going to be able to do that, I think, May 12th. So that will add to the numbers through May. But 30 million people have filed. So we don't understand the virus. Everybody's getting different data. But we're learning to live in this situation right now. Not everybody's happy about it, like nobody. Some are more angry than others. But this is the situation, the hand we've been dealt, depending on the state you're in. For some, it's not the worst thing ever. For others, it is devastating. But every state is feeling this at this moment in time. I think minus Wyoming and Montana. The 8 people there, they're like, what? Something's going on? We didn't even know that. We thought we were part of Canada. Did you guys think that too? So outside of that. Now the scary news, though. 2 years. Some people are saying it may be 2 years that this thing hangs around. Now, that's, as Bill Maher perfectly put it, it's panic porn. I don't know if I believe that it's 2 years. But I do believe that it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Could be several months. So what happens then? The approach we have now is we've flattened the curve somewhat as far as, and flattening the curve, different states have different issues. I'm in Phoenix, out here in Arizona. We don't have the same issue as New York City. California doesn't have the same issues as New York City. New Jersey has the same issues as New York City. Texas doesn't. Utah doesn't. So flattening the curve in some areas means something totally different, but mostly what it was the opportunity to hopefully not overwhelm certain systems and get everything we have in place that we possibly can to combat this thing. But 2 years would be insane. 6 more months. Could you do it another 6 months? Honestly. Now, around the world, everybody's kind of doing the same thing except for one place. Sweden. Sweden's getting a little bit of blowback from people outside saying it's not working. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But Sweden's thought process is, well, no, we're doing it. We missed because we didn't sufficiently protect the older generation and parts of our immigrant community the way that we should have. And some of that was just lost in language. And some of it was, like they readily admit, a swing and a miss. But maybe Sweden, and I have looked at this approach, is in a position where they may be doing something real. Because eventually, if this thing is going to be around a long time, we'll have to make that decision, which is, do we hide from it or do we learn to live with it? Different approaches. Because even people I talk to who are all about sheltering in place, and I've got several friends who are 100% sheltering in place is the right thing to do. They need to extend this through this. But they also said, well, we can't do this forever. Like maybe another month or two. Well, it's not going anywhere in a month. But Sweden's been really criticized. World Health Organization, Dr. Mike Ryan, Executive Director on Sweden, talking about their approach.
I think there's a perception out there that Sweden has not put in place control measures and has just allowed the disease to spread. Nothing could be further from the truth. Sweden has put in place a very strong public health policy around physical distancing, around caring and protecting for people in long-term facilities and many other things. What it has done differently is it has very much relied on the ability and willingness of citizens to implement physical distancing and to self-regulate. They've implemented public policy through that partnership with the population.
Which is a good thing. They believe in their government more than we believe in our government. They also have less government, but they trust their government. And the government trusts them, that's an important part of it. The government's laid out certain things and said, hey, here are the guidelines. You guys, these are the guidelines, and this is what you guys need to do. And the government's trust that they're going to do that. Has there been a few situations? Yes, like everywhere. There's a few situations. where people are, by and large, though, they're doing their thing and the government's not having to crack down on them. Kids have been in school. New report out says that kids are just the kids will have a worse response to the flu than to this. There are also several reports out and studies out that say kids aren't the spreaders that people thought, and giving it to an adult via a kid rarely happens. So why are schools closed? We're taking a lot of these things, and I get it's a novel virus. We don't know what's going to happen. Is their approach the right way? Well, we'll find out. Yes, they've lost more people than their Scandinavian neighbors, but the way that they look at it is over a period of time, and they believe within the next week or two, they're going to have some sort of herd immunity, and they've already plateaued, and it's just going to be a straight line from there on out, where everybody else is still sheltering in place. When they come out, what's going to happen? You see it in Japan, you see it in Germany. There's a spike. They're already talking about going back inside. The start-stop. Sweden's not stopped. Would we be in a position in the next 3 to 6 months, if things really don't differ too much from now, where we have to make a choice that we better learn to live with it and around it than hide from it? I think that's a possibility. But governors and our leaders are going to have to make those choices. But one thing I do know is we can't live like this for 2 years. I don't know if we can live like this another 6 months. And I don't know if people are willing to go another 6 weeks sheltering in place, watching everything that they've worked hard for evaporate. And at some point in time, as much as they love to spend your money, I think the government's going to look around and say, we can't do this anymore. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from you. I do. Wounded Paw, amazing organization. So really, just Ernesto put this organization together, started it, all based on the fact that he had got home from another tour in the Middle East, and he was struggling, and he was wounded, and one thing led to another, and he adopted a dog named Daisy. Daisy wasn't a service dog, but changed his life, and it came to him, and boom, Wounded Paw Project was born, and now he goes in and rescues animals that would be euthanized, trains them, so takes them from shelter to service dog, and it's an amazing thing they do. And right now, not only do they help veterans, but they also help first responders and their family, and they're in dire need of help. Now, there's several ways that you can donate and give. First, you can go to, if you're on Amazon, which many of us are, you can go to smile.amazon.com and set your supporting group to Wounded Paw Project. They also take cash. And you can take action today and turn your extra car, truck, RV, even a boat into a vehicle for change. You get a great tax-deductible gift. The proceeds are used to protect, advocate, and transform shelter dogs into service dogs for veterans, first responders, and their family. Find out how you can give and do more, even volunteer. Go to woundedpawproject.org, woundedpawproject.org, or call 844-678-4PAW, 844-678-4729, or woundedpawproject.org. You'll be saving a paw to save a life. Chad Benson Show.
If you're part of the politically exhausted majority, don't fear. Your time to be validated and rejuvenated is here. Wake up. It's the Chad Benson Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old intranet. What's trending? All right. On this Friday, let's talk about trending. Valiant ranks Riot Games decided when they're going to release their new games. It's booming right now. Video game alcohol consumption up. Snacks eating up. People exercising up. And the one that's up the most, though, is video games. People are playing video games nonstop. So everybody's starting to figure out when they can release their games. Ohio stay-at-home order has been extended to May 29th. May 29th. So they've got at least another month. Anderson Cooper is trending because he made an announcement that he has a son. No, he did not give birth himself. And I don't know if you saw this, producer Phil, but this is timely, apparently. Tropical thunder was in the news yesterday because a younger generation in the 2008, so that's 12 years removed, has decided that Robert Downey Jr.'s character was wrong and bad, and there's huge backlash from it.
So we can't watch that movie now, right?
That's what they're trying to do. They want him to come out and apologize. The whole thing was, that was the point. You just... cancel culture. So yesterday, Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Hayes were both trying to be just living their life, doing their jobs, when cancel culture came in and hunted them down. Thank God. Even though I still think he looks like the caterpillar from a Disney movie. I have nothing against Chris Hayes. Super lefty, but he does his gig, and he didn't do anything wrong, didn't deserve to be canceled. And at the same time, Robert Downey Jr. doing a movie in Hollywood about a guy who has an experimental surgery to become black for a part in a movie doesn't deserve to be canceled. Go over to Twitter. I believe Biden is trending. Of course, he addressed today those things, those sexual assault allegations on Morning Joe.
Please, to our viewers, please excuse the graphic nature of this, but I want to make sure that there is no question as to what we're talking about. She says in 1993, Mr. Vice President, that you pinned her against the wall and reached under her clothing and penetrated her with your fingers. Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reid?
No, it is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
Never happened. Never. Did it happen? I don't know. Why? Because I wasn't there. Could it have happened? Of course it could have happened. Could it not have happened? Could she be a liar? Of course. But we don't know. What we do know is there are allegations. And she did talk to somebody at the Senate Human Resource thing, but didn't tell exactly what those were. And there's NDAs and all kinds of I don't know what took place. But if Kavanaugh and other people have to address stuff from long gone, it can't just be one side gets a pass and the other side has to pay the price and answer every single thing. That's hypocrisy. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Love hearing from you. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson. As Florida and other states make plans to reopen, some governors are imposing restrictions on the ability of people to collect unemployment if they choose not to return to work because they don't feel safe. But in the short term, homeowners like Haiti Fernandez-Stampa and her husband, who own a catering company in Las Vegas, are worried about their mortgage.
Priority is the mortgage, to keep that up, to keep the lights on.
By one count, 3.8 million American homeowners skipped mortgage payments last month. Many lenders are currently offering forbearance, a temporary grace period that lets borrowers pause payments.
So this is interesting. Now, I talked about this the other day. My little sister is currently unemployed and is making so much more money than she was before. She's like, I don't want to go back. My little brother, on the other hand, is still employed, works for the Ducks hockey team, and they're still keeping him on he coaches the youth, and they're still paying him. And he's a little perturbed. He's looking over and seeing his sister making $1,000 a week. I get that. Or there's some people who are genuinely scared. I mean, they're genuinely, they're afraid to go to work and be out amongst the people. Hell yeah. 100%. And there are some out there who have underlying conditions that, if they were to catch this, could pose a real threat to them. But there are also some people out there going, I'm sitting at home and I'm making $1,000 a week and I got a $1,200 check and blah, blah. And it's so bad. Now, that's eventually going to run out unless they continue to push this thing on and on and on. And who knows how long this pandemic is going to go. What we do know is it's ugly.
We are in a severe contraction, which, of course, comes from the economic consequences of the virus. It's nobody's fault. It just is there. And the strong steps the president has taken to deal with the virus, which has put us medically, in terms of public health, in a much better position. I mean, the curve is flattening out. You're seeing states now beginning to use our federal guidelines as metrics, if you will. It's going to be data-driven. Health and safety is first.
Larry Kudlow right there. And health and safety has to be first. But it doesn't mean it's an all-or-nothing scenario. If this is around for a long time, we can't live in a world where half the country is unemployed, the government's writing check after check after check, people are losing their homes. That's not plausible. Businesses are, just gone. When you talk about small business, just to give you guys an idea, about 48% of Americans are employed by small business. Just to give you an idea, snapshot. So that would mean probably about 72 to 75 million Americans work for a small business. The longer this goes, the more they're at risk of never getting their job back. And when we emerge and they say it's all clear, we go from one pandemic to another one.
But a lot of states are either beginning to or about to reopen. That'll help the economy. But no, there's no question this is a deep, painful, hardship-ridden contraction. It is not completed yet.
No, because the 4.8% contraction in the first quarter is probably 10 times smaller than the one that's going to be coming in the second quarter. And businesses are forecasting the third and fourth quarter to be great. But if we're hearing Fauci and everybody else saying this is going to be around a while, then that may ride out till the end of the year. And some people are saying the possibility of this thing lingering for a year or two is very real. Well, we're going to have to make serious choices. And governments are going to have to make serious choices. States are struggling to pay their bills. They're struggling. They're laying off, furloughing. You go to work for the state or for the federal government because you think to yourself, man, well, now in a lot of places you get paid pretty well. In many cases, you do far less and you get all kinds of great benefits without the opportunity of really having to super improve or do extraordinary work and really never having to worry about ever being fired. But now they're furloughing. They've stopped hiring. They're making decisions in the coming weeks and months with no tax revenue coming in. How do we bring revenue in and where do we cut? Cities and states across the country are facing the same thing. And while the feds may help them to a certain extent, it's not going to make up their shortfalls. Some cities and states are saying, all right, we're going to have to do something else. Nashville.
This is the most difficult year and the most difficult budget.
After a 1-2 punch of a tornado and a public health crisis in just a matter of months, Nashville Mayor John Cooper's budget presentation had a somber tone.
This will be the greatest financial challenge that this city or any other American city, for that matter, has faced in our lifetime.
His $2.447 billion budget includes an almost 32% property tax increase.
Property tax increase. Think about that. Think about a 30% property tax increase in your state, in your city. What does that look like?
For a home valued at $250,000, that means an extra $625 a year. Mayor Cooper says this will generate $332 million in new revenue.
There is no way of not sharply increasing property taxes to replace more than $300 million in missing revenue. Over the next 15 months, the city will miss almost $500 million in revenue.
States are going to be looking at other ways to go about getting revenue. California years ago, the most popular things that the right and left ever agreed on was Prop 13. Prop 13 capped your property tax at what you paid for the house, not what they valued the house at, because at some point in time, people were going to be priced out of their own home just paying taxes. And the Democrats for years now have figured out, oh my God, how do we get back where we can do that? For the money for the schools, the things that we could do with it. Well, you've got to weigh it, because if you raise property taxes to what you paid $300,000, like my mom paid $285,000 for her house in like 1986. It's probably worth $1 million now. Property tax in California on that $1 million, she'd said I have to sell the house and move. You'd see property values start to crash. People couldn't afford. And then you're asking people to pay more in a time when they're worried if they're even going to keep their home.
Opposition to the proposal started almost immediately, but Mayor Cooper maintains his plan will help Nashville get back on track.
We look forward to getting our city into another era, an era of improvements, and not just struggling to achieve continuity, of just trying to hold things together.
And I understand. Look, I think everybody understands that they've got to do their part and find a way to bring in revenue, because that revenue is going to help. Then you've got the other side of it is you're hitting people when they're down, people who are worried that they're even going to have a home. And now you're asking them to pay more when they're trying to figure out if they can pay any to even stay in their house. And $600 for the average person is not going to kill them if it's a normal world. An extra $50 a month in a time when you're scrimping and saving and don't know whether or not you're going to have a job, your hours have been cut, or you're deciding you've exhausted your savings, some of your retirement. It all adds up. And it adds up mentally as well. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. Protesters yesterday stormed the castle, if you will, in Michigan. They were upset.
The demonstration began outside of the Capitol building in Lansing, but moved inside. Dozens of people crowding outside of the doors of the legislative chambers and clogging up the stairwells. Many demanding the state reopen businesses. Lawmakers are deciding whether to extend the state of emergency. Now, that's different than the governor's stay-at-home order. Democrats and Republicans have been trying to reach a deal. Ryan Burrow, ABC News.
I don't know if they're going to extend it or not. And her stay-at-home, Gretchen Whitmer, was much different than the shelter in place, because her stay at home was you stay at home and you're not going to the parks. You're not going to go, you're not going places. Like, people ask me, I was talking to one of my colleagues today and I said, has your life changed a lot? And she says, a little bit. And she goes, what about you? I said, to be honest with you, minus going to see a movie or maybe having a meal out, it's not changed too much. I go home, play with my lizards, right? See the family. And I've got projects we're working on with the lizards and stuff. And I play my soccer and work out, 3-4 days a week. And I hit some golf balls. But I work I'm up by 2:30 or 3 in the morning, and I don't get home till 7 o'clock at night. So there wasn't a lot of time to do a lot of other things. The good news is I don't have traffic on the way home at night. That's kind of neat. But it hasn't changed a ton. But for a lot of people, it has. It has absolutely changed tremendously. In some states, it's a little bit more. And you're going to see more and more of these protests moving forward.
Employees from Target, Walmart, Amazon, and other retailers prepare to walk off the job, protesting what they say are unsafe working conditions. Protesters even painted the street outside the home of Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, calling for more worker protections. Also this morning, protesters are taking aim at colleges and universities. Students picketing schools, saying they're not getting what they paid for.
Protest everywhere. People protesting places not being open, places that are opening, protesting that they're not protected. And colleges are facing something that is going to be, if this thing continues to go on, potentially devastating for colleges. Parents are making a decision right now, and colleges have decided that they're going to, this year they have been very, how should we say this, very opening in their enrollment and whether or not you get into colleges, because they know they've got to overbook, because the potential of people saying, no, I don't want to. But why would you send your kids somewhere if you think that this is even going to be open and spend God knows how much with the potential of not getting your money back? And the learning is one thing, but the experience is also something kids are paying for. We'll see. Protest, protest, protest. And I don't think it's going to get any better the longer this goes. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show, Twitter, Raycon. Amazing, amazing, amazing E25 everyday earbuds. Half the price of all those other ones out there. You know the ones, the white ones with the stems. Yeah, you get where I'm going with those. These sound better. Just incredible. The 6 hours of playtime is awesome. The seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass. The compact design gives you the best fit I have ever had on an earbud. And the price is right. Not only half the price, they start well under $100. Comfortable and perfect for things like conference call. Maybe you have a meeting, video meeting, or maybe you just want to relax. Kids are running around. You want some peace and quiet and binge on your favorite episode of something or podcast like the Chad Benson Show. That's what Raycon's all about. Right now, not only are you saving already, I'm going to give you an extra 15% off. You go to buyraycon.com/Chad, buyraycon.com/Chad, buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
The coronavirus has disrupted everything. Not seeing sports like we used to, movies, theaters, fun. And yes, sad news yesterday about one of the fun things that goes on in the summer where kids get to live out adult dreams and adults get to watch their kids. Little League World Series.
Little League officials say they had no choice when they canceled the World Series yesterday, along with regional tournaments, including softball, after discussions with state officials in Pennsylvania and health experts.
We've come to the conclusion, based on the recommendations and guidance from them, that it will be virtually impossible for us to conduct regional and World Series tournaments.
Little League President Stephen Keener.
A lot of kids dream about getting to Williamsport, and that's not going to happen this year, so it's really heartbreaking for us.
And Keener says because of the age restriction of 12, he doubts they would be able to allow players back a year later.
Oh, my goodness. Just devastating.
We're dealing with so much right now, and that's just another one of those blows that I think we all look forward to. It's such a special place for me and my time away from the field and baseball. And I think it's just one of those things that we all relate to. And going back to our 10, 11, 12-year-old days and competing against one another on the Little League field.
It's funny when you ask, I think it was Chris Drury who won a Stanley Cup or two with Colorado, but they always ask him what was the best moment of your life, and he won the Little League World Series, and he said the Little League World Series. It's like it's still, they look back on it. So that being said, none of that, which sucks, something is going to happen. NASCAR is coming back.
This plan that NASCAR has submitted and the Charlotte Motor Speedway has submitted, this went back and forth for several weeks with the highest North Carolina health officials, including Governor Cooper. The same process is happening in South Carolina. It's already happening in other states as well. And so there were notes from the state of North Carolina. You can do this, you can't do that. NASCAR took those notes, and that's how they formulated this plan that will start very soon.
Yeah, very soon. There's going to be races. How many?
You're talking about 4 Cup Series races in 11 days. And, 400 miles, 400 kilometers, 500 miles, 600 miles. NASCAR hasn't done anything like this ever, even back in the 60s when they were running 60-something races a year.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because there's nothing else going on. But you can, without the fans, this is one of those sports where you can go, okay, we can do this. And the same thing can be said, I think, for golf, which is if there's no fans, it's you and your caddy. You're social distancing anyways. People are playing golf in most states. So it's something new. Tell you what, if there was a golf tournament this weekend, I'd be watching it. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me, text the program, check out the Instagram as well, and of course, Facebook. Yeah, we got that there thing, too. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
I think there's a perception out there that Sweden has not put in place control measures and has just allowed the disease to spread. Nothing could be further from the truth. Sweden has put in place a very strong public health policy around physical distancing, around caring and protecting for people in long-term facilities and many other things. What it has done differently is it has very much relied on the ability and willingness of citizens to implement physical distancing and to self-regulate. They've implemented public policy through that partnership with the population.
That's Dr. Mike Ryan, Executive Director, talking about Sweden. They've done stuff differently. People around the world that don't have their death toll are like, wow, you guys are failing. But their thought process is this isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And now they may be the ones who are correct, that it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Some people are predicting this could be around for as long as 2 years. So the choice would be, do we hide from it or do we learn to live with it. Sweden said we're going to learn to live with this. They've made some mistakes. I think every country has made some mistakes. I don't care how good they've done. Every country has made some mistakes. We've made mistakes. This administration has made mistakes. States in some places have made mistakes. But I think most countries, including our own, have got a lot more right than they've got wrong. But now what? That's the big one. There's two big questions that need to be asked in the coming weeks and potentially months. When do we get back out there? And if there's a spike, which there will be, what's the difference between a spike here and there and we got to run back in? And how do you put that genie in the bottle if it happens? That's tough.
Texas now opening dine-in restaurants, movie theaters, all retail stores, and shopping malls at 25% capacity. In Georgia, Governor Brian Kemp ending his stay-at-home order despite pushback from President Trump.
However, moving forward, I'm urging Georgians to continue to stay home whenever possible.
Illinois lifting restrictions on garden centers, golf courses, state parks, and retail stores.
So some are emerging. Some are clamping back down for another month. Ohio today announced it's going to be at least another month. Stay at home still stands. I think Michigan and several other states, obviously, I don't foresee California emerging anytime soon. Same thing with New York City. Every state's got to make their decision. But the big decision is going to be what happens if this is sticking around. That there isn't even a second wave. It's just a continuous first wave. That the heat doesn't damage it or destroy it. It's not seasonal. It's just hanging around. What happens at that point? Do we hide? Could we afford that? Could we afford to hide? I say no. I don't think there's a chance that we could afford to hide. And even when we reopen at first, poll after poll is showing people are wary.
A new ABC News Ipsos poll showing while 77% of Americans would return to work the day after emergency orders were lifted, only 44% saying they'd eat at a restaurant and just 29% saying they'd go to a gym or health club.
That's this thing that people are going to be grappling with in the coming days, weeks, and months is even when you have the chance to go back and re-engage in whatever normalcy is, that will you? There's some people are afraid. They're terrified that this thing is not going anywhere and that it's going to be lurking out there. And they're hearing that it could last another 2 years. They're hearing that it's going to be seasonal. There's going to be a second wave. They're hearing all of those things. And they're just like, I can't do it. Other people are going to be saying to themselves, I can go out and engage. I can go out and live my life again, but I'm not going to go out and spend money like I used to, even if you have money, because you're worried that the second shutdown's coming and you're going to have to live through that. And the potential of this one being worse to the economy is very real. So you don't want to do that. So now what? Small businesses are looking at reopening, but they're going to reopen with half the staff or a quarter of the staff because they're not even sure what to do. It's all new ground to them. Restaurants are opening with 25% capacity. They're having to add extra precautions for all kinds of things, which is costing them money. You can't operate a restaurant at 25% capacity and expect it to stick around for the long term. I don't know what to say. The vaccine, people are excited, but when?
The president fast-tracking the search with a program reportedly aiming to make hundreds of millions of doses available by next January.
I hope we're going to have a vaccine, and we're going to fast-track it like you've never seen before. If we come up with a vaccine, I think they probably will.
The WHO reports that there are currently more than 100 vaccine candidates in development, but only 8 of them have been approved for clinical trials.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, the clinical trials. Now, the Oxford one is the one that seems to be making the most noise. And vaccines different than the therapeutics. Therapeutics are drugs that we already know that work on other things that, along with either a cocktail or just itself, may work in combating this when somebody already has it. The vaccine is the shield from you ever getting it. So 102, I think, was the total that I saw last night of companies, some in partnership with countries and other companies, some on their own, trying to find something. Oxford is fast-tracking theirs. They did it already with primates, and usually it takes years and years to even get to the point where you're experimenting on primates. So they exposed, I think it was some 13 primates to, they gave them the vaccine and exposed them to the COVID-19 virus, and none of them got it. Now, their hard part, they say, is finding enough people to trial the vaccine, and they want 6,000. And why that's tough is they may have 100,000 people that want to do it, but they need 6,000 of the right candidates, people that are being exposed to it. If you sit inside your house all day because you're not allowed to go anywhere, you're probably not going to get it anyways. But that one seems to be the one that everybody's looking at and hoping for. And it would be the $1 trillion medicine at this point. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Of course, the storming of the gates, Michigan yesterday.
The demonstration began outside of the Capitol building in Lansing, but moved inside. Dozens of people crowding outside of the doors of the legislative chambers and clogging up the stairwells. Many demanding the state reopen businesses. Lawmakers are deciding whether to extend the state of emergency. Now, that's different than the governor's stay-at-home order. Democrats and Republicans have been trying to reach a deal.
Yeah, and, Trump's going to be thrown under the bus because today he said, they're very good people. And Governor Whitmer should make a deal. And, of course, that's going to cause all kinds of hell and havoc, of course. Michigan's a little bit more the way that like most states have their executive orders for shelter in place. She then added on to stay-at-home orders and cracked down on things like, so if you go into like a Walmart and you want to get gardening supplies, you weren't allowed to do that. Toys aisles were cut. It was like you couldn't go anywhere. And they want you out of your house. That you expect there to be pushback. I would hope so. And it's funny because people are tweeting at me because, Trump's calling those people very good people. I don't know if they're very good people, but do you think they're very bad people because they feel that their rights are being stomped upon? And you wouldn't say that about somebody who is out there protesting the rights for the LGBT or for women's choice. And you wouldn't do that. These people feel like their constitutional rights are being stomped upon. And maybe at times both sides can act petulant, but I'm sure there's some bad ones among them. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are scared and they're seeing their livelihoods evaporate and they're worried about the future and they're living in the present that they can't control. Yeah. But this will be controversy. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. We've managed to turn a virus into a right and left battle. Welcome to modern politics. Crazy. Speaking of the virus, it's out there. A lot of you are saying, I got to wear a mask. Don't get some of those uncomfortable. Don't do a homemade mask. Boomer Naturals, full-service wellness company. They provide products and services that enhance your well-being and increase your quality of life. Have amazing masks available. These are masks that are incredible. The Boomer masks are the best you can get. Other masks you may buy online have a protection of 2 to 70%. These have a 92.2% protection. And what I love about them, they are incredible. They've got 3 layers of high quality, hypoallergenic, 65% cotton, 35% polyester blended materials. They sent, and I thank them for it. They sent 1,500 of them over to St. Mary's Food Bank here in Phoenix, and they're like, we love these. Here's the great things. They're 30-day masks. They're cloth, 30 uses at them. So you can wash them in between uses with soap and room temperature water. You let it air dry, and it's incredible. It really is. Suitable for all-day wear, available in adult and children's sizes, and you can get them right now. What you have to do is simple and easy. You go to boomernaturals.com, use code CHAD20. You're going to save 20% plus get free shipping on all orders over $50. That's code CHAD20 at boomernaturals.com. Take your family's health into your own hands and order your 30-day mask now at boomernaturals.com. Promo code CHAD20. Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
We're looking at exactly where it came from, who it came from, how it happened, separately and also scientifically. So we're going to be able to find it.
And my question is, have you seen anything at this point that gives you a high degree of confidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the origin of this virus?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
You have? Are you sure?
This is not what intelligence officials seem to believe. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence, in fact, released a rare statement saying it is investigating the origin of the virus, but that it agrees with the wide consensus that COVID was not man-made.
Now, coming from the laboratory and man-made are two separate things. One of the things that the intelligence agency reported was that they were testing COVID. They're trying to play catch up in a lot of the things that we have while their economy rocks and rolls and has been, thanks to us and a lot of the free world. China is still well behind the 8 ball when it comes to a lot of things. And they were potentially, and I'm sure they still are across the board, looking at other viruses and things inside laboratories. And one of the theories that you could say, okay, that's plausible, and that our intelligence agency reported on several years ago is that these laboratories are flimsy. There's no protection. People come and go. There, like if you try to, we've got strains of Ebola and all of these horrific things that are out there. You're not walking in there. And they said people walk in and out and it's no big deal. Could somebody have been infected, didn't think much of it, then went somewhere and potentially it took off from there? Yes. Could it have been from the wet market? Absolutely. Was it man-made? I don't think it was. I don't think this was a deliberate thing. The deliberate side of stuff comes with China not being open about how bad it really was. The World Health Organization saying that no evidence that it spreads from person to person. So there was a lot of issues outside of this, whether or not it was man-made, where people failed. But I don't buy that this was somehow man-made and they released it somewhere. I just don't buy that. I do potentially buy that it was somewhere, that they were testing on it, and that somehow, not that it escaped, but somebody got infected and potentially never even knew they were affected, maybe asymptomatic, and somehow it spread. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. I don't know how long this is going to last. I look and you see all these headlines. Could last 2 years. Is it possible it lasts that long? I guess. You know? I mean, anything is possible. Like I said, if you would have told all of us that as the clock went from 11:59, 2019 into 2020, that within 4 months we were essentially going to be sheltering in place, hiding from some illness that we cannot see, and that it was going to be gripping the world, and that we're going to have millions upon millions of people who are unemployed globally, and the destruction of our economy, I think people would have went, whatever. So, is it possible? Yeah, it is. Is it likely? I don't know if it's likely. But the reality is there's a possibility that it could linger, and it may not be here. It may linger around the globe. We may get up some sort of immunity to it, but other places may battle it for several months and years. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Let's pivot something political, but not COVID related. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
So, there is going to be an election this year. It will be Trump versus, most likely, Biden. But you never know. You never know. Take you back a few summers ago. Right? A little bit long ago. It's a guy named Brett Kavanaugh and Christine Blasey Ford. Remember her? Hi. So there's an allegation against him. Happened some 40 years earlier by a woman who really couldn't recall exactly what took place at the house that it took place at. It was, at best, a throw against the wall. I felt bad for her because I felt like the Democrats used her, and the minute they were done with her, they threw her away. And I don't want to discount anything that happened, but it was there's no court in the land that would have convicted him on any of those. But at the time, it was, you got to believe all women. And I said, no, you have to hear all women. You don't believe everything. You have to hear it. You don't say, I believe you, before you've even heard it. Joe Biden. For the last several weeks, this has been bubbling. Coronavirus has stolen everything's thunder. Let's be real. Everything's thunder has been stolen by said coronavirus. That's 24/7 nonstop. But politics is still going on. It's not going anywhere. There will be an election in November. And Joe Biden, who's, let's be real, bit handsy. We already know that. Bit odd, hair sniffer. We already know that. Has heard the rumblings of this, and the media's largely ignored it. When they have talked to him, it's been, basically, you're the best, you're the greatest. Can you defeat this evil monster in the White House? I don't know if the allegations are true. Right? I don't know. Everybody, Trump's chiming in about what's going on.
Joe Biden, your campaign and surrogates going after him pretty hard with regard to these allegations from Tara Reid. And what do you say to Joe Biden?
I don't know anything about it. I don't know exactly. I think he should respond. It could be false accusations. I know all about false accusations. I've been falsely charged numerous times. And there is such a thing.
Yeah, could be. I don't know if what she's saying is true. because we haven't heard the story. The media has largely ignored the story, which is very hypocritical of them based on what took place with Kavanaugh.
If you look at Brett Kavanaugh, this is an outstanding man. He was falsely charged. What happened with him was an absolute disgrace to our country. And I guess 3 of the 4 women have now admitted that. And of the 4th, give me a break. But I don't know. I can't speak for Biden. I can only say that I think he should respond. I think he should answer them.
The other day, he was at a women's forum. Nobody asked the question. So you have a woman, Tara Reid, who in 1993 accused him of doing something. She told her brother. She told her next door neighbor. There has been more than a few people that said, yeah, she told me exactly what happened and who it was. So today, finally, because I think enough people said you've got to address this because the Huffington Post is starting to ask questions, pretty left-leaning. Chris Hayes the other night started to ask some questions. Don Lemon has asked some questions as well, because that's what you're supposed to do in this kind of situation. I'm not saying he did anything, because I don't know. I wasn't there. She could be lying. She could be telling the truth.
Please, to our viewers, please excuse the graphic nature of this, but I want to make sure that there is no question as to what we're talking about. She says in 1993, Mr. Vice President, that you pinned her against the wall and reached under her clothing and penetrated her with your fingers. Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reid?
No, it is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
Okay, never happened. Never, ever happened. That's what he's saying, unequivocally. We live in a world where innocent until proven guilty. I don't know if it happened or not. I don't. There are going to be other women that pop up. It's a possibility. He wasn't finished.
Women are to be believed, given the benefit of the doubt. If they come forward and say something that they said happened to them, they should start off with the presumption they're telling the truth. Then you have to look at the circumstances and the facts. And the facts in this case do not exist. They never happened. And there's so many inconsistencies in what has been said in this case. So yes, look at the facts. And I assure you, it did not happen. Period.
It did not happen. Period. So allegedly, she was a staffer, went over to deliver like a duffel bag or something like that. They were alone. You get what happens. So I find it to be, it's funny because all of these women who want to be his vice presidential candidates, who hammered Kavanaugh over and over, now have to come out and say, oh, it's not him. It's not the person I know. You know what? I don't buy this. It's the, look, there's hypocrisy. Let's be honest. There is. I don't know if it happened. She could totally be lying. Somebody said, do you think she's lying? I said, I don't know. I have no idea if she's lying. I have no idea what took place. I said, could something have happened? Absolutely. 110% something could have happened. At the same time, could she be lying? Oh, for sure. But isn't it funny the way that we have this? There is a certain amount of hypocrisy here that is going on. And I think if you go as far as we did with Kavanaugh, let's not forget Kavanaugh.
But why is it different now? Do you regret what you said during the Kavanaugh hearings?
What I said during the Kavanaugh hearings was that she had a right to be heard. And the fact that she came forward, the presumption would be she's telling the truth unless it's proved she wasn't telling the truth. Or not proved, unless it's clear from the facts surrounding it, it's not the truth.
This woman, who's heard her? I'm curious. Who's out there hearing her? I don't. Minus Fox and a few right-wing outlets, nobody's really covering it. A few have asked questions about it. Her story seems a little bit more plausible. Doesn't mean she's telling the truth. But there's some questions, right? I mean, it's not wrong to ask questions.
I have complete respect for the whole Me Too movement. I have 4 daughters and 1 son, and there's a lot of excitement around the idea that women will be heard and be listened to. There is also due process. The fact that Joe Biden is Joe Biden, his former employees who ran his offices and the rest, that there was never any record and that nobody ever came forward or nobody came forward to say something about it apart from the principal involved.
Well, who else was going to say something? If I'm the only one in the room with somebody and somebody does something to me, who else is going to come forward outside of me to say something? Hey, did you see through the wall what happened? No. No, I didn't. Oh, you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. There's more of this. There is. Where and when that's going to come out is anybody's guess. But it's not going away, and it's now out there. Here's a question. What if another person pops up? What do they do then? What do they do then? Because Bernie ain't the answer. But there's somebody always lurking out there, waiting. And I've said from the start of this process, she wants to be president. She does not want to go through the primary process. She wants to be president, and she wants them, if something was to happen, to ask her to save the party. Could it happen? What do you mean, could it happen? If you'd have told me 8 weeks ago that our economy would have shed 30 million jobs, we were going to be locked up for who knows how long, sheltering in place, not being able to high-five each other or watch sporting events, I think everybody said you're crazy. Anything is possible. Anything. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You could text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. I wonder if he's going to release the records. That's the other thing people are asking about Biden.
Joe Biden's statement denying allegations from Tara Reid is the first issued under his own name. Reid told ABC News that at the time in 1993 she complained to the Senate Personnel Office Biden had made her feel uncomfortable, but she did not mention an assault, and she has no record of the complaint. Biden called for any relevant records in the National Archive to be released.
Not just on this. People are asking, well, why don't you release all the records? Well, he's like, stuff can be misinterpreted. Could be. Absolutely right. But for years, people were paid out with taxpayer money and allowed to go on their merry way, continuing to be senators and congressmen and women, and records were essentially, poof, magically gone. Just say it. We're going to release all the records and release all the records. I got zero problem with that. Interpretation is real. We can all interpret certain things, and I'm not saying allegations are proof of guilt. Sometimes it's just easier to pay somebody to go away. I think we all know that. But still, there's questions to be asked. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program. Car Shield, 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free, and your car gets to go to the shop that you choose, and they get them paid directly. Mm-hmm. You pay a small deductible. That's pretty awesome. Now, what Car Shield does, they have plans, all kinds of plans. Start as low as $99 a month. You call them up and you tell them, hey, my car's a little older. It's like 2010, and it's got 100,000 miles on it, and I worry about my transmission or whatever. They've got a plan for that. Maybe your car's a little newer, but it has electronics. You're worried about that and what that would cost. They've got a plan for that. You name it, they've got a plan for it. And again, 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop, and the shop is the shop that you choose. You pay a small deductible. Call them today. Talk to them. 800-CAR-6000. Mention code Benson. Or visit carshield.com and use code Benson. Saves you 10%. Cars 6000, code Benson. Carshield.com, code Benson. Saves you 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
You go, boy.
This isn't about right or left. This is just about right and wrong.
Right you are, Chad. The Chad Benson Show.
The breakfast crowd returned to Houston's Common Bond Cafe with social distancing markers on the floor, disposable paper menus, single-use condiment packages, and a 25% limit on the dining room capacity. Some Texas restaurant owners say they're just not ready yet.
I don't feel safe. I don't think my staff feels safe. And I don't think the clientele feels safe. Most people are not going to come out yet.
What's more, says Abraham Saloom, keeping his restaurant 75% empty means he actually loses money by opening.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of restaurants are going to face moving forward. Limited capacity in an industry where the margins are so razor thin that it's you're asking them to spend more money to bring in extra things like disposable forks and knives and menus and potentially having, glass partitions in certain areas and only allowing a certain amount of people to come in. That's not a win. It isn't. But you're going to find in the coming, days and months that people are going to start to ask serious questions. You're going to get more of what we saw yesterday in Michigan, all the while not knowing how long this thing's going to be there, how close we are to a vaccine, which we know we're several months away to potentially never. But my best guesstimate would be, at best, early next year. If we do find one, the reality may be end of next year. So that's a long way to go. People want to get back with their lives. I think everybody understands that. Doing it the right way, but also doing it the right way where you instill confidence that people can go out there and not have to worry about closing up shop for a second time. And the more that states across the country start to clamp down on people, the more that they feel that their freedoms and constitutional rights are being taken away, the more that they feel like they're caged with no end in sight and that they're losing everything, the more you're going to get pushback.
In Orange County, cities are filing to block the governor's order to close their beaches. And in San Francisco, civil rights attorney Harmeet Dillon has filed a lawsuit calling the governor's stay-at-home rules overreaching.
The governor has chosen to limit protests to zero in this state, which is outrageous and absurd.
And on houses of worship,
going to worship communally is a First Amendment protected activity.
Dillon has filed 6 lawsuits in recent weeks, but the governor's order remains in place.
Yeah. And you're going to get more and more of those. The executive order overrides what? The Constitution? Is that? You're going to get more of this. You are. That's why transparency is a must, is an absolute must for states and for the federal government to be as transparent as possible. How did you arrive at this decision to say another 15 days at stay at home or another 30 days? How did you get it to this? What were your models? Because people want to know, because it at least gives them the sense that, okay, there was a reason. And when you already have a distrust of government, doesn't matter who's in power, the other side doesn't trust the other side, that makes it tough. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting weekend for sure. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. All that being said, as the data, and I comb through it, it is not a death sentence. We are going to get through this. It is going to be tough, but it's going to happen. Oh, yes, it is. It is going to happen. I'll be with you every step of the way as we rock and roll through this thing, and we will get through it. And we'll emerge stronger and better for it. Have a great weekend. We'll do it again on Monday. Be kind. Night, Jack.
This is The Chad Benson Show.